Well, guys, in this video, we will see how we are able to build a RAG solution on the data which has been stored into the Azure AI Search Index, and then how to work on a vector query on this to extract the data. So, in the previous videos, we have already seen how we can create the Azure AI Search Service. We have seen that, how to create it. We have also seen how we are going to have the Azure storage account created and upload the document on the on it. Then we have also seen how we are going to create the Azure OpenAI service, and then from the Azure AI Foundry how we can create the text embedding as well as the GPT deployment. We have done that. So if you haven't gone through those videos, I will put the link for them so that you can use them and then start implementing it. For building this RAG solution, I'm going to make a use of the Python, and we will see how we can build a vector query. We'll see how we are going to build a embedding and then execute the query. Now, in one of the previous video, we have already seen that how we can make a use of this import and vectorize data and get the data from Azure Blob storage and create a embedding on it. Okay, creating an embedding on it with the help of this open Azure OpenAI service and the text embedding. We have already seen that. That's the reason in our Azure AI service, Azure AI search service, we get the index, and this index is having the fields which is the text vector where we do have the data that has been stored. We have already seen this. So the question is, what is embedding? So embedding is a technique that is used in machine learning and artificial intelligence to convert the complex data like words, images, or even audio into some numerical vectors. And we do have the models for that, as like text embedding the model which is there. So we can very safely say that the embedding is basically a way to translate the real world object into the mathematical format. So instead of sending the raw text in a query, okay, or the raw text like some word, okay, like mobile or laptop, like that, and embedding turns those word into the least of number, and what it does is that it even capture its meaning as well as the relationship and the context. That's what it is. Now the question arises is that like why that embedding is important over here. So this is what a diagram, okay, where we have done some this particular part in those videos. Like we have the storage blob where we have PDF documents, then we do have Azure AI search service with the index and indexer, and then the embedding that has already been done. So why it is important? So embedding are important for semantic understanding, with the help of which the models grabs the meaning, uh, not just the keywords. It just grab the overall meaning of the query so that it will be executed and help to provide the most match result. Then it also provides the dimensionality reduction, right? So this embedding compresses the high dimensional data into the manageable formats, right? So this is more like a document search, right? We can have the search implemented on a documents, okay, based upon this vectors. So we do have word embedding, which is what that we are going to use, the sentence embedding, image embeddings, right, for the visual features of the images, and so and so for like graph embedding and audio embeddings. In a real world, this embedding is very important in building the search engines. right? Or building the chatbots, or getting the more accurate result out of it. But now to this embedding, what is really needed is the vector query, or the data that has been to search the data. What do we need is a vector query. So what is this vector query? So vector query is a very powerful feature of Azure AI Search Service, which helps to enable the semantic search using the embedding. So whatever the data that has been sent by the client, what we call it as a prompt, right? That prompt will be processed where we can write a code to generate the vector embedding for the prompt, which will be finally executed on the index of the Azure AI search. And then what this is going to do is that this is going to provide the most match result after the execution. Okay, so the vector query is what is the input, right? So whatever the plain statement that has been sent by the end user, for example, for example, in case of the policy application, or I should say two-wheeler or four-wheeler policy, you just want to know that, what are the depreciation percentage. So that is the query, and that's the English statement. So with the help of code, we actually generate embedding, and from that we generate a vector query, and that will be executed on the Azure AI search index, and it's gonna provide the most match output. So in this video, we will be doing that, right? So what I'm having is that, like, I'm already having the Azure AI search service, right? I'm already having the Azure OpenAI, which is having the deployment with GPT and the text embedding. And there also exists the data source, which is basically reading the PDF document from the store, the BLOB store. Okay. So now let me take you back to the Visual Studio Code, and this is what my Python code is. Of course, we can even use C sharp. So let me tell you guys that I already have the article on this. This is what my article, right, which use the C sharp. So I will also put the link for this article in the description of this video, and then you can go through that. Okay. So let me go back to the Visual Studio Code. And I do have an environment file, and in the environment file, all the necessary environment is been set for Azure AI search endpoint, the index name, right, the key for the authentication, then the OpenAI endpoint, right, the OpenAPI key, and my deployment IDs. Now, guys, very important. You should take the deployment IDs, which are names. Don't take the model name. Don't take the model name. These are the model names. Always take the deployment name. That's a deployment ID. It's very important, right? So here we are taking the deployment ID for the GPT as well as for the text embedding. Now the step number one over here is that, yes, of course, before proceeding, the necessary package installation has to be done. So we are gonna load the environment file. For that, I am making a use of .env, the package. Then for search client, Azure AI Search Service client, I'm using Azure Search Document. So those necessary packages are already installed. And then OpenAI, right? So that's the thing. This load.env will load the environment file. And now moving further, so the step number one is that I'm creating the search client. Now, guys, since I want to explain you the entire code, that's why I'm not coding it again here in front of you. So here this is the search client which takes the important field. So nice thing is that to know about it, just move your mouse cursor on it, and then it will basically give you the list of keys, right? So here using VS Code, right? You can even use PyCharm or any other tool to get the thing done. So here I'm passing my Azure AI search endpoint, index name, and its credential, which is my key. This is going to create the search client. The search client will be used for the query. Okay. The next thing is that, like here, we are using an Azure OpenAI. We are creating the initialization of Azure OpenAI client, where we are passing the key as well as endpoint and the API version. Now, the question is from where we are going to get this version. So let me take you back to the portal again, and here from this, if we click on this deployment, right, we will be getting the version over here from this. So this is the sample code, and this is sample Python code, and from here we are going to get the version. So make sure that you follow these steps very properly. Otherwise, it will be a problem for you. Okay. Now moving further on this, we are going to create the embedding for whatever the query that has been sent by the end users. I'll say that create embedding for the query from the user, right? So now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to build the client, that is Azure OpenAI, right? It's already there, and then I'm making a use of the create method of the embeddings type of the Azure OpenAI client, right? The create method of embedding type of the Azure OpenAI client. Okay, so here I'm going to create an instance of Azure OpenAI to which I'm passing the OpenAI key, the API version, as well as the endpoint. Okay, now from where the endpoint is going to be there, so we are going to get the endpoint from the portal. The parameters which are passed to that, number one is the query to the input and the model. This is my embedding deployment ID, which is my GPT-3 here. So if I'm going to go back to the deployments, not GPT, sorry, here, the text embedding large deploy, that's what that I'm passing here. So now the query will be generated from that, right? Sorry, the embeddings will be generated from that. So this is the method, which is very important method to generate the embedding, right? So creating the instance of Azure OpenAI and then using its embedding create method to generate an embedding. Now I do have the next and most important method, right? Next and most important method over here is a vector search, which takes the query and the top K. I'll tell you about top K, what exactly it is. So now over here, the first thing is that the embedding for the query will be generated from this. So we have already written the method for that. And the next thing is that we are creating the vector query. Okay, I already told you the vector query. So vector query has a parameter, the vector, right? This is used when we are searching we are performing the search based upon the vector embeddings. The fields. So here we need to take that vector field from the index that has already been generated. So if I again take you back over here to my portal, I'm going to take you to the indexes here. And in this indexes, I do have fields. So in this fields, this is the text vector. So guys, please make sure that you use that field name properly. Okay, sometimes it text vector, sometimes it content vector. So when you are going to use the import and vectorize wizard of the Azure AI search service, the field name of the field will be text vector. So here we are taking that. The kind is a vector. So the purpose of this is that the kind represent that the query is a vector query, and the k nearest neighbor, this determine how many close matches, right, that they are supposed to return. This is the integer. So here this is get the, I should say here, embedding from query. Okay, then the next thing is that this is the vector field from index schema. This is the kind of the query, and here this is the nearest results, right? Nearest close match results. Okay, that's what it is. Now moving further on that, now we are going to get the search result. So here we are using the search method of the search client. We have already created a search client above. So we are passing that query, right? The vector queries, and then here these are the fields which we are going to select, the chunk and the title, right? We are selecting the chunk and the title. Again, here we have, this is the chunk and the title. Chunk is that small portion and title is the name of the document. Okay, so we are taking that, and then this is gonna return the results. The result here, this will be written. So this is the heart of my entire implementation. So we are having the embedding from the input prompt. We are creating an instance of vector query which will be telling the field and telling the name of the nearest close match result, and then the query will be executed, which is going to generate the, which is going to provide the results. Now what the next thing that we are actually going to do over here is that, like, we are going to move further on this, where what is the next thing is that we are going to do is, or here is that, like, right, we are basically appending this into the output documents. We are retrieving the documents, the chunk and title, so that we can show the data appropriately on the UI. And then finally we are gonna get the, like, get this through my generate answer method, where this generate answer method is been called in the beginning. So generate answer method, it takes the query from the end user, or here this is it, the generate answer. Generate answer basically call the retrieve documents and vector search. So retrieve document is going to provide me the sources, because I there could be more than one PDF documents exist, right? So from which the output will be, from which documents the output will be taken, the title and chunk that is over here, then the vector query. Okay, and then this is what my prompt is. Now this prompt you have to set it very clearly. So in my previous videos, as I have explained you, I'm using this general insurance document for the car policy. Okay, I'm using that. So here I'm creating the prompt. I'll say that you are an AI car long-term policy package knowledge generator. And then here to this prompt, we are passing the context as well as the query and the sources. The sources, that's what I wanted in the output. So those sources will be from the retrieve documents. Okay, and that's what my method is, retrieve documents, which is actually going to provide me the document over which the search has actually been taken place. Okay, that's the thing here. Okay, and then this prompt we are passing to my GPT model, and then we are going to get the output from that. So this is what my prompt, which is having the context, my actual query, and the sources. Okay, this entire prompt has been passed to the GPT model, and then it is going to provide me the response. Okay, this is pretty straightforward over here. So the important part over here is that, okay, important prompt over here is that the vector search, where we are going to use the vector query, and the second part is the retrieving of the document from where, which are those documents that will be used during the query execution. Okay, again we are using the Azure AI search client for the same, right? And then finally the answer will be generated, right? So that's the thing. So here we are calling the retrieve documents, we are calling the vector search, we are gonna get the result chunk. Chunk is the actual result. Okay, right, and this is the prompt. Okay, the chunk is what, okay, the output which will be which has to be there with us after executing the query, right? And that should match with the field in the index. Okay, so here now this entire thing is being made available to the GPT, right, with the help of OpenAI client object, and then we will be getting the output. And this is what did I got this over here into my simple loop. I'm accepting the query, and then I'm passing the generate answer. So generate, I'm using the calling the generate answer method to which the user query will be passed. So this user query is here, right, which will be used for retrieving the found documents from where the search is going to take place. The same will be used for the vector search, and then the whatever the output is, that will be then further made available to the prompt. This prompt will be passed to the GPT model, and then we are going to get the output. So have a look over here is that we need the GPT model for getting the meaningful result, and text embedding is what that is been needed for the embedding. Okay, these are the two important things, right? We need that text embedding for the vector queries. Clear? Right, so that's the thing now here, and then we are going to get the output. So this is what my document is, and I do have over here the age of vehicles and the depreciation. So here this is what the table that I want. So here I'm going to go and then I'm going to run my Python file here. So I'm going to ask the question, and the question is that, like, okay, provide the table that, okay, shows age of and percentage of depreciation. Okay, so now this will be executed, right? So the first, the embedding will be performed for this query, and then we are going to get the answer in a proper tabular format. This is it, right? We are getting this answer in a tabular format, and here it is also telling us the source document from where we are searching it, or the result is been received. Okay, it's providing that. Let me ask the next question over there. I'll say that what are the exclusion, what are the exclusion in accidental damage? So again, we will be getting the result here. So normal wear and tear, general aging of the vehicles. So see that we are getting this depreciation of any consequential loss, okay, and all that, right, from this. So this is how we basically build the proper RAG solution on our PDF documents. That's the beauty of it. So we use Azure AI Search Service, right? We use Azure AI Search Service. We for that with that Azure AI Search Service, we actually go and import the data from necessary data source, and with the help of our model deployment into GPT, model deployment into the Azure AI, Azure Open AI service, we have the embedding as well as the GPT deployment, right, that we configure here, and then, right, what we get is the indexes, right? This index has the schema. Okay, this index has the schema with the text vector chunk title. This everything will be used through our vector query, right, or by our vector query to provide us the necessary result out of it. Okay, so we are having the Python here with the Azure search documents and OpenAI, right? We are creating an instance of the search client. We are creating an instance of Azure OpenAI, and then we are creating embedding based with the help of that embedding deployment. Then we are implementing the vector search query with the help of vectorized query class. Then we are going to retrieve the documents, and finally we are going to generate the answer based upon the prompt. That's what the thing is. So this is how we can build the rack solution, right? So I'll put the git link for this entire project as well as my article which I have discussed over here. Thank you very much, guys. Happy coding. Thanks.